We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seem coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. Rally, 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 rally round the West Indies. Rally, 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 rally round the West Indies. Oh, there was a new remix going on in the game today. I swear that's how it was going. Anyone in the live who heard that remix today? They were doing some next up remix in the game. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Machel and Santokie here, one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. And with me as ever is Santokie Naked and the other half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, my partner in crime. Santokie, West Indies are back. What you saying?
West Indies are back, baby. West Indies are back. Listen, we told everyone West Indies are back, but the reset has begun. West Indies have won by 4 wickets today, chasing down 325 against the mighty England. We're going to ignore the fact England are down bad, and we're just going to say the mighty England. I think it's their second highest ODI chase for the West Indies, obviously led by a stunning century by Shai Hope. A lot to talk about in this ODI match, but first things first, big movements for West Indies to just get that first win out the way.
Yeah, for real. And it's hard to know where to begin. So actually, let me bring up a comment, because there's a few people, Santokie, who added us on Twitter. And I think there's been a few people in the chat before we even went live saying, do we all owe Desee an apology? And I've put in the title for this particular live, Good Job, Desee. Now, it seems weird to start at the end, Santokie, because Shai Hope will take all of the plaudits. Again, obviously, his 16th ODI century, 109 out of, think of 89 balls, whatever it might have been. Was this a win, Santokie? Let's deal with the elephant in the room right off the jump, because I think this is going to be the lazy analysis that people jump to. So let's go straight to it. Does this win vindicate Desee saying we're investing in youth and this is the way forward? Because I think that's how people are going to spin it. And this isn't negative. I don't want anybody in the chat right now. Desee, if you're on your burner account, anybody from Cricket West Indies, if you're on your burner account, any of the players on your burner account, this isn't a negative comment. This is just, we're here to actually analyze stuff. Does this vindicate the youth first policy, Santokie?
Well, I think firstly, like you said, Mash, obviously a lot of people atting us about Desmond Haynes being vindicated. I don't think you can necessarily vindicate a selection policy, a long-term selection policy based on one white ball game, which are based on fine margins. Secondly, as you said, as you sort of alluded to, Hope century, I know Afanay's had a good performance at opening, but generally this innings was built around Hope's century. And you had the likes of Romario Shepherd coming in and playing as he did because Shai Hope was there and kind of building that foundation. But if you're looking at the innings of like a Rutherford, a Carty, even Hetmeyer to an extent, I mean, Hetmeyer is a senior player, but okay, so if we take Rutherford and Carty, then you can say, no, it hasn't been justified because essentially the team, as we've seen for so long, were reliant on Shai Hope to essentially play an out-of-this-world innings to get us across the line. And as I said, fine margins. If we'd have lost this match, come close in the chase, then would the same people be saying, "Oh, Haynes' policy has failed"? So going back to my original point, I don't think you can critique or justify a selection policy based on this one game. But I will say, obviously, whilst there were plus points to our performances, in terms of the youth-only policy, you can sort of see how if Shai Hope's not having a good day, where the run's going to come from in this middle order. So in that regard, you can say there looks like there will be problems on this youth-only policy.
Just to put Shai's knocking into context, because I'm not fully certain if everybody's deeped how sublime Shai's knock was, right? Shai's knock was 109 out of 83 balls. To put this in perspective for everybody in the live today and those watching on the replay, he went at a strike rate of 131. That is the quickest Shai has ever batted when making a century. So as much as we have to say, well done, Athanaze, for laying the platform, well done from Romario for coming in and playing an explosive innings alongside Shai, Shai's innings was the best of his career in terms of when he's hit a century. So we can't get away from the fact that it was still, largely speaking, if you want to break it down into percentages, it was still largely speaking a Shai Hope masterclass. If Shai doesn't produce that innings, we simply don't win. Take Shai Hope out of this side, and there's big question marks to be asked about the next stepping stone for this side at some point in the future, not anytime soon, obviously, would be, can this side win without Shai Hope? I know we can win with Shai Hope. Can we win without Shai Hope? But that's not to put a dampener or anything. I think that, to me, is just to magnify how significant and how brilliant Shai's innings was. And it also speaks to what we saw in CPL and what we've seen of Shai's game over the last year. Shai has learned in the last 12 months, some may say a bit longer. See, I knew people would say this, AWE saying, stop being negative. You're not listening. You lot ain't listening. Listen to the analysis. No, I'm not. I told you. People, I'm not here to be anybody's cheerleader. If you think this is a cheerleader show, jump off the live. Press like, subscribe, then jump off the live. I'm not here to be a cheerleader to anybody. I'm here to scrutinize. I'm here to analyze, and I'm here to talk details. I'm not here to just cheerlead mindlessly, okay? Shai's innings was fantastic. It is reflective of where Shai's game has gone to in the last 12 months, that he can do this, and no one's even batting an eyelid now. We're just going, yeah, that's Shai Hope still. He's our number one guy. This is what he does. I'm still... Dale says, don't get rattled. Listen, you lot get me heated.
Dale Haynes. Was that Dale Haynes? Is he related to Desmond?
Desee, is that your burner? Is that your Desee burner? Desee, do you want to come on?
Name for your burner,
Desee, I'll send you the link. Come on the show. But on a serious one, though, none of that is to take away from the fact that this was still a very good performance. You can't. It's going to be rare for a team like West Indies to have everybody perform 1 to 11. Yeah. But we can look at who was good today, Santokie. Athena's laid the platform, laid the foundation. I think I saw a stat earlier today where I don't know what King and Mayers' best partnership was, something like 60, maybe 70 odd. Today, first time ever together, King and Athena's put together a 100-run partnership. We rarely see things like that. We rarely see that. So we have to rate that. We have to respect that, particularly Brandon King, who, yes, he wasn't fluent, but he's coming off, no cricket since CPL. So we have to understand that in that context. But anyways, let me hand over back to you, Santokie. We haven't even properly broken it down.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go from here?
Well, let me just add to, Shai Hope's innings was essentially a masterclass in how to play a game situation. We saw him ease himself in with the runs. But then what was interesting was towards the end of the innings, when the pressure was coming on, he played like a finisher, especially in that last over when he hit the sixes. And I think we're starting to see the relative success he's having in T20 cricket. He's translating that into his game in ODI cricket. So he's essentially adding another dimension to his ODI game. And I think, Machel, is considering how down bad West Indies have been, to have a player who's played 119 ODIs and is averaging 51 is remarkable. And I think it's a testament to Hope's sort of his determination and his focus, that in spite of everything going on around him, the truly awful cricket we've seen at times, he's managed to maintain his high standards. But then again, it does lead to the question marks of if he's injured or if he's out, how do we kind of cope without him? But so obviously Hope's obviously the main performance. As you said, Athena's and King, it was, considering it was their first time opening together, it was refreshing. Obviously, Athena's took on the onus of playing more attacking. King sort of settled himself in, but then didn't put together a big score. However, it looked like a promising partnership, 104 runs. As you rightly said, we don't really see that often in white ball cricket with West Indies, that sort of big partnership. So that's looking very promising. Hopefully we can see that develop over time. And I think we have to give credit to Shepherd as well, because when the pressure was in, he sort of counterbalanced Carty's grind ball innings with his own innings, which sort of, what was it, 48 of 21?
48 of like 20. I'm just seeing how much it was. Yeah. It was 48 of something, 20 something.
Yeah. So
48 of 28.
48 of 28. Essentially, he came in and sort of played a finisher innings, and that just took a lot of pressure off West Indies. So we'll have to give credit to Shepherd. In terms of, obviously, we'll get onto the negatives, but in terms of the positives, there were positives in that batting order. And obviously, with the ball, I think Moti played well, showed why he's the premier spinner for us in white ball cricket. O'Shane Thomas, Mash. What did you make of O'Shane Thomas's performance with the ball?
So the only there's 278 people in the live, by the way. Big up everybody in the live. We've noticed the numbers have creeped up massively in the last week and a half, 2 weeks or so. So big up anybody who's a new follower of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. You know how the thank you for joining the wave. Thank you for joining the movement.
Amateur production. You know, we ain't even said, you know, like, comment, subscribe as well. If you're tuned in, like the video, subscribe. Make sure you're subscribed. Comment as well. Get all the interactions going. We're keen to hear your opinions. And as Mash said, in the last week or so, we've seen the numbers jumping up. So thank you for everyone who's tuned in at the moment, and continue to help the movement grow. So share it around anyone you know with even a passing interest in West Indies cricket. Let them know about the Caribbean Cricket Podcast movement.
Brian says, "How do we creep up massively?" Do you know what I meant, Brian? I meant in the sense of what we
well, everyone's getting that Mash today, you know.
Hey, listen, I'm tired as well, you know. All I mean, Brian, is that one night, we were posting videos that were regularly getting, I don't know, 2.5K. All of a sudden now, just overnight, suddenly they've gone up to 10 and 15K. I don't know what happened. But anyways, by the by, your question was about O'Shane. Now, O'Shane, I thought he was very, very good today. Now, I did a video last night where I talked about who did I think would play in the team. And I said that I thought O'Shane should play because I think he had to be rewarded for the fact that they'd had him in camp for the India series. Obviously, he partnered Alzari Joseph in Super 50. And whoever was on that live yesterday, somebody made a very good point. Although O'Shane only took 2 wickets in Super 50, he bowled in tandem well with Alzari Joseph. And there was a lot of spells in Super 50 where O'Shane should have got wickets, whether it was drop catches or he bowled some kind of really good line and lengths and hurried up batters and so on and so forth. So the 2 wickets don't really speak to what he produced in Super 50. And more importantly, his partnership with Alzari helped Alzari be penetrative for the Leeward Islands, right? So I was like, the next stage now for O'Shane is he has to play in an international game. He's got to make his international comeback. He was the pick of our bowlers today. I know some people say Multi and whatnot, but that first spell O'Shane bowled, I think it was it 4 on the spin or maybe 5 on the spin? He was on the money. He still looks jerky. He still looks like his fight, like Shannon Gabriel. O'Shane's got that kind of, he looks like his body's fighting him when he's run into the crease, and he doesn't look smooth. He's never really looked smooth. But when he first broke on the scene, when he was skinny back as an 18-year-old, he was a lot smoother than he is now. So I still think there's some work to be done on O'Shane's form, approach in the crease, but he found his line and length from ball 1. And he sent through some with like real zip and venom, which the England batters struggled to kind of get to grips with. And it was really good to see. It was really good to see. The question mark I've got, though, Santokie, and I think Neeks is in the live, so Neeks will probably want to add on this in the chat. If you start with O'Shane Thomas, you should really be giving O'Shane Thomas and Alzari Joseph the new ball. I'm still not convinced that you give Alzari Joseph and Romario Shepherd the new ball in ODIs. Now, I suspect the reason O'Shane didn't get it is because part of his development is that they probably believe that he's not ready yet to start with the new ball in international cricket, and they're worried about him being taken for licks. But there's just a question mark about that, Santokie, as to why didn't he start with the ball with Alzari? Why did they hold him back? And is that the right thing to do? You're on mute.
Bad. Yeah, no, I was going to say, I think you're right there. I think having not played ODIs for so long, I think they were just essentially trying to ease him in to the format and playing at that level again. I think Romario Shepherd's not a new ball bowler. He's not someone who you'd sort of trust just due to that inconsistency. And we saw it again today, like how quickly England were managed. England were going at 10 and over for the first 8 overs or so, just because they were able to hit Romario. And he did find his way on later in the game. And that sort of shows you his specialism is at the death and also in the middle overs. I don't think you give Romario the new ball, but hopefully if if we keep the same bowling lineup for this series, probably by the third ODI, we'll probably see O'Shane Thomas get that new ball once he's found his groove, and maybe that's the long-term plan they have, Alzavi and O'Shane. It could have just been just to get O'Shane, ease him into the game. They didn't go with that. But I think, yeah, long-term, Romario Shepherd's not the guy you want with the new ball. And it was, to be fair, if we're looking back at that innings, it is a credit to West Indies because, to be honest, I'm sure most fans would have been thinking the worst when England did race away. They were like 77 after the first 8 overs, looking very comfortable, finding the boundary. Phil Salt were looking good as well with the bat. So I think it was concerning, and the way that West Indies have been in the format over the past few years, but more recently this year, you could envision them putting their heads down and sort of losing control of the game. So the way they were able to ease back into the game, I think they were helped by England losing their head with a lot of wickets and playing a bit of reckless shots. But I'll give credit to the bowling attack: Alzavi, Joseph, O'Shane Thomas, even Romario Shepherd, and then you got Moti sort of leading the line with his spin bowl performances. They were very good. I was disappointed by Yannick Correa, Mash. I felt he had a poor game. He did get hit a lot. And considering when you look at all the spinners in the game, so Rehan Ahmed, Liam Livingston, Moti, how they performed on that pitch, it did suggest the pitch was beneficial for spin. So I do feel Correa did lose a lot of his discipline. And it's not really what we expect from him because he's been someone who's been playing ODIs regularly for the past year or so. So probably the most disappointing in that bowling lineup was from Yannick.
Yeah, the other thing in Yannick's defence, I think Moti dropped one early. I think Brandon King, it was a sharp chance, but could Brandon King maybe have taken one for Moti as well? So there were definitely some catches that went astray for Correa. But I think one of the problems gone.
No, I was going to say, yeah, there was one over, I think it was the 39th over, where he went for like 23 and it just looked like he'd lost control. I think towards the back end, I'm not sure if he had like an injury or if it was fatigue or something. He just looked very tired towards the back end and did get hit. But hopefully this is just a blip and we'll see him recover some form in the next one.
Yeah, I think part of the problem for Yannick, I'm just going back. Let me just check something because I want to, yeah. So Yannick Correa bowled, Carrier, sorry, he bowled the 42nd over. Was that his last over? He bowled the 42nd over. I'm just double checking how many overs he bowled at the death. He bowled the 42nd and the 48th. Now, with respect, what on earth is he doing bowling in the last 10 overs, right? So there's this, like I say, this is why when people say Mash should be negative, no, we've still got to show constructive criticism. I think they have to look at how are we using Carrier. Surely you don't want him bowling 2 overs. Two of the last 10 overs shouldn't be Yannick Carrier bowling them. And I think they're going to have to look at where he is most effective. How can they get his overs done before we get to the last 10 overs? But also, Santokie, maybe this is where we should go next. And actually, Kevin Prasad must have known what I was about to say. Yeah. This is because we didn't have a 6th bowler, Santokie. In their desperation, I think, to get both Rutherford and Carty in the side, we decided to bench Chase. Now, you know me, Santokie. I've been one of Chase's biggest criticizers in the last 4 years. But I think in ODI cricket, there is a place for Austin Chase, right? And I was worried that without Chase in the team, we'd get one bowler who would get taken down for licks and we wouldn't have somebody else to use as a 6th bowler. Everybody tried to say to me, oh, yeah, we can use Shafane Rutherford to bowl or we can use Alec Athanaze to bowl. If we're doing that, we're down bad. And without Chase as an option, it just meant that Carrier had to bowl his 10. And that's why I think, Santokie, when you look at his return for the day, so it was what? Let me get the scorecard again. It was 10 overs, 1 for 76. So there was nowhere else for them to turn. If you see what I mean, even England made the same mistake. They didn't bowl a 6th bowler either. So I'll be very interested to see when we go to the second ODI, which team is going to make a change with regards to having a 6th bowler, or are they going to say, yeah, well, we can do it again with our 5 frontline bowlers all bowling 10?
Yeah, I think it became very predictable because you knew from the offset West Indies would have 5 bowlers. So it didn't give any room to maneuver if there was a bowler who wasn't having a great day. And it also made it very predictable. It's interesting because Bish on commentary did say he felt Rutherford should bowl a few overs just to add that to his sort of repertoire. But as you said, Mash, it would also show we were kind of down bad because most probably if we did bowl Rutherford or Afanase, based on what we've seen, they'd probably get licks unless they only bowled 1 or 2 overs each. So again, it's not a genuine bowling alternative we have. So it will be interesting to see if West Indies do look at it and think we need to bring in Roston Chase, or do they stick with the winning formula for the next ODI. But yeah, I do think it was very, very predictable, the bowling lineup. And obviously, hindsight's a good thing. We've won the match, so there won't be too much scrutiny on it. But I do think our bowling performance, when it was it did go flat for periods, particularly between like overs 35 and 40. I do think we just looked like we didn't have many options or ideas to turn to.
I mean, we're not here to really dissect England, but even England had Will Jacks as an option, who I've seen bowl for Surrey, and they didn't even turn to him. And like slow bowling is West Indies' kryptonite. And I was looking at England going, so what, you're not going to try? You're not going to ask man to float one up on a six stump line and wait for West Indies batters to just give it away? Like, I was really surprised they didn't go down. They didn't go down that route. So it'll be interesting to see how the game changes second time round. As you alluded to it, but somebody else we should probably put in the positives, and it probably speaks to how we just take him for granted now. Machel Santokie he bowled 10 overs, 2 for 49. Now, here's the thing, Santokie. Machel has basically gone past Akil Hussain as now our premier spin bowler, right? Who we just know. Yep, he's going to keep it tight. He's basically Machel is basically a strike bowler for us, right? It begs the question, though. Do you see any way back for Akil Hussain? Because it seems that we've taken the attitude that you can't play both of them at the same time, which is weird. But how does Akil ever get back in if Machel is now like the go-to strike bowler?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't see him getting back in, at least in the ODI format. Obviously, in T20s, he's still the spinner that they utilize. But if you're looking at ODIs, Moti and Correa are obviously the two that they're going to, just because of the two different. You obviously got slow left arm with Moti and then leg spin with Correa. I just don't see, unless we're touring the subcontinent, I just don't see how they pick Akil Hussain, or if Moti's sort of injured. So I think Moti's sort of gone clear in the head as the premier spinner in 50 over format. And as you said, he's sort of become the strike bowler and, more importantly, the reliable bowler. You know what you're sort of getting out of him every time he bowls. So credit to Moti. He's massively improved his game over the last 2-3 years to get to this level. So you can obviously tell he's been working hard on his game and developing that level to where he looks comfortable at an international level. But for Akil Hussain, obviously, I don't see how there's an immediate return to the ODI format, just because there won't be much of a need for two spinners of the same caliber.
So we have the left arm orthodox Moti. We have the leg spinner, which is Correa. I don't think they're changing that anytime soon in terms of that partnership. And then we have our three pacers, O'Shane Thomas, Alzari Joseph, and Romario Shepherd. And I would expect that to be the exact same team for the next ODI as well. I think we've pretty much covered the positives. I don't want to say let's talk about the negatives, but let's go to Hetmyer first, actually, because Hetmyer is not really a negative, because the joke being Hetmyer's innings today was 33 of 32? 32 of 30. That was his best knock since he's come back into the West Indies colours. And it sounds ridiculous to say that 32 of 30 represents someone's best knock. I mean, I don't even know where. Did you see his belly today? His belly was hanging over his trousers. Like, man looked like he had a bare belly out on the field today.
The thing is, though, if we're going to say Brandon King played an okay knock, technically, what was King's innings? King's was 35 or 44, strike rate 79. So Hetmyer went over 100 strike rate. So in that regard, you can say, at least, as you said, it was the highest score he's had since he's come back. He was going at over 100 strike rate. However, if we're judging it, which I think we are based on what we know Hetmyer can do, it's a disappointment, especially because of the game situation. It felt like Shai Hope and Hetmeyer at the time, it felt like that was the pivotal partnership. If one of them went, we'd start losing wickets and tumbling. So there was, again, as we've always said with Hetmeyer, it's a recurring theme, just that lack of application. I just feel he could have stayed it longer and put together a bigger score. So for me, I can't cuss Hetmeyer too bad because, like I said, that means I would have to cuss King as well. So in perspective of the innings, Hetmeyer did contribute some runs. And if you're also comparing it to what Carty and Rutherford did with the bat as well, you can't really single out Hetmeyer to cuss. But if we're looking at sort of Hetmeyer's return to like world-class form, he still looks a very, very long way off it.
Will Hetty ever get back to the player he was in 2019, right? Remember, like it feels like it was years ago, and it was years ago, it was 4 years ago. But Santokie, Hetty, when he broke out in 2018, 2019, scored 5 ODI centuries in no time at all, right? I look at him now as a 26-year-old. So he hit those centuries when he was 22. He had the world at his feet. I look at him now as a 26-year-old. And this isn't just about Hetty, in fairness. Let's use Shea as a standard bearer, right? There were moments in Shea's innings today, and before everybody in the chat gets on my case about it, hear me out when I say this next line. Shea Hope is like Virat Kohli. Hear me out. Let me land this statement. Do you know why Shea's like Virat Kohli? Because Shea takes his craft so seriously, right? Let me tell you how you know Shea takes his craft seriously. Shea is the only batter in our team who runs with real urgency. Like if there's a 2, he's getting that 2, if you see what I mean. He'll turn a 1 into a 2, and he's not tired after he's turned that 1 into a 2. He's looking for the next 2 after that. Shea's strength and conditioning and general professionalism towards his game puts everybody else in the Caribbean to shame. Right? I think Ali Catanese has bits of that about him as well. So when I saw Hetty batting with Shea today, I was thinking, Hetty, do you ever look at Shea and just think, I wonder how good I could be if I got myself back into shape? Or do you just think, Santokie, Hetty's making money? It don't matter. Like, he's going to be an IPL star forever and ever, amen. So it doesn't matter. Or do you not think that people look at Shea and go, I need to get to those levels?
You know what? It's interesting because in world cricket, Shea Hope's so unusual in that his performances are world-class in 50-over cricket, but he hasn't reached those heights in T20 cricket or Test cricket. Or usually when you've got a world-class, like a Kohli can play all formats, and it's generally players who are exceptional in 50-over cricket are exceptional in T20 cricket. So it's weird that Shea Hope is essentially isolated in one format, the 50-over format, as his strong suit. And he's head and shoulders above his performances in any other format. So there's that aspect that Shea Hope takes ODI cricket so seriously because that for him is his main format at the moment. He's not contributing in the same way in other formats. So maybe that desire is there because of that. And I think this leads on to my next point. I think, and you said it there, the IPL, I think if you're looking at Hetmeyer, 2018, 2019, I think it was 2018 when he scored big in India. He got an IPL deal after that. I just think it's affected him in 2 ways. One, you lose that sort of desire and hunger, partly because he's getting the money as well. He knows he's getting 1.2, 1.3 million US dollars with the Rajasthan Royals at the moment per year. So financially, that means he could be losing desire because of that. And also, I just feel the IPL, his role needed in IPL as a finisher has led him to sort of focus his game on becoming purely a finisher. Whereas 2018, 2019, he was essentially playing in a hope mode in terms of building an innings, then accelerating towards the end. Whereas now, he's essentially abandoned his other skill sets just to focus on being a complete finisher. And it's sort of, he's lost his qualities as a batter in the 50-over format. So for me, I think the IPL has been a hindrance for Hetmeyer's career, especially if we're looking at his performances in ODI cricket. But I think that's the modern landscape. I think at the moment, I don't see how, if you're Hetmeyer, it's justified because the IPL is paying your bills. It's where you get the majority of your money for. So obviously, you're going to develop your game to suit longevity in the IPL rather than longevity for West Indies cricket. So there's various factors, but I do think Hope's desire is always going to be a lot more than a lot of the players in the side, just because he's not on the franchise circuit. So for him, ODI cricket has a lot more value.
Yeah, I think that's excellently broken down, people. Listen, I hope you lot are listening, you know. Gudakesh just broke that down nicely. He just broke that one down nicely for you lot. Listen, a super chat by Brian. Brian says, sorry, Hetty still needs better fitness. He got out because of fitness. Remember, he ran hard to get 2. That's true, actually. I remember that. On the ball before he then hit a ball straight up in the air to lose his wicket. Yeah, and Brian makes a good point here, because the wicket that actually that Hetty got out to, it in the context of the game, it didn't even seem necessary at that point. So I don't know. It's pure speculation to say that he was kind of at that point in a mentally exhausted state. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, all of us, and we're talking about all West Indies fans, just want to see Hetty get back to what we consider to be his best in international cricket. I'm sure a century is pending at some point, but as you said, Santokie, fundamentally, I think you're right. If I'm saying that King was all okay, given the context of King coming back to play, can't really knock Hetty's innings per se, but it would have been good to see him kick on. Let us talk about Casey Carty. Now, if you're on the live at the moment and you're in the Discord group, there was a massive conversation on the Discord group about Casey Carty. Now, I want to just put the disclaimer out there. I think Casey Carty is talented. I think he's got a lot of work to do on his game. I think the way he plays cricket is probably still suited to the longer version of the game, but I get it. I get why Desee and Cole are investing in Casey. Like, I get it. However, Santokie, this was the argument I was making in the Discord. In this year's Super 50, so sorry, let's go back. Casey scored that 80 odd, I think it was, against Sri Lanka in that dead rubber game in the World Cup qualifiers, right? And the only reason I remember it so well is because everyone kind of said then, this is the making of Casey Carty. He's come of age. You know, when everyone's quick to hype a youth man when they do something, right? And they hyped him and said, yeah, he's come of age now. I think he might have got a 40 odd against India in the series we had in the summer. So I get it. I get why we're saying it's time to give Casey Carty a run. But do you remember, Santokie, when we were looking at Super 50? And I said to you before the start of Super 50, if Casey Carty has a bad Super 50, and I think I said Hetmeyer as well, do they just get straight into the team anyway? And you said, yeah, they're just going to get straight in. Casey went on to have a very, very bad Super 50. All but 2 of his innings were less. He scored less than 20 runs. And the 2 that he scored over 20, there was one score of low 20s, and I think his highest score was like 35. And every single innings he had in Super 50, I think he had 8 of them, they were scratchy. He wasn't timing it fluently. You could tell that he was in a bit of a rut. Now, bearing that in mind, Santokie, and I watched pretty much all of Super 50, right? This is why I made the point and said, does Casey just get in off the back of a really substandard domestic tournament? He got in, and today's innings, Santokie, he scored 16 off 39 balls. Santokie, it was torturous. It was a torturous innings. I felt sorry for him. Because I know he's frustrated with himself right now. So this is the question I put to you, Santokie. It's one thing to say you're investing in youth, but where is the line about investing? Where's the line of investing in youth if the youth is in bad form? Are you investing in them, or are you destroying them by making them play the highest level when they're not in form? But you're saying to everyone, well, I'm investing in you all the same.
Yeah, it's an interesting one with Carty, because this goes back to what we said about the Desmond Haynes press conference. By singling out Afanase and Carty as the reasons why Darren Barber is not getting into the side, you immediately put pressure on those players. And immediately Carty, I mean, there would be pressure on it anyway because of the innings he played, but it feels like there's added pressure because now the narrative is like, okay, well, Carty's the one keeping Darren Barber out of the side, for instance. So you add that pressure. But it's an interesting one, Mash, because as you said, he had a terrible Super 50. But if we're basing it on what the selectors have said, the Super 50 wasn't the be-all, and end all for selection. So they've obviously invested in Carty regardless of his performances at domestic level. So there's two ways of thinking. One, are you destroying his confidence by having him play international cricket at the highest level in bad form? But then the counter argument would be, okay, if you drop him out of the side, Mash, where is he going to regain that form? How else is he going to play 50 over cricket? And I guess that's sort of the dilemma, because how does he regain form? What is he going to do to kind of get back into the side? So I can see why they've committed to Carty. They publicly backed Carty along with Afanase. Obviously, Afanase at the moment is justifying that decision, so there's no questions there. But with Carty, I think the minute you publicly back him, especially as a reason why your top run scorer in Super 50 is not making the side, you have to back him for at least the next few series. So I think they'll persist with him. However, as you rightly said, at what point does it end? If he keeps continuing, if he scores under 20 in the next few innings, when do you say, all right, he needs time out of the side, or do you just persevere with him? And it'll be interesting to see how this develops with Carty, because he definitely will play the rest of the series against England, I'd imagine.
Yeah, 100%. And before I even answer your point there, as Crick Lover says, there's 432 of you in the live. This might be a record, you know. Let's see if we can get to 500 in the live. Share up the video, people. Let's see if we can touch 500 in the live. CCP, you know. But only 95 likes. Only 95 likes apparently. So like up the show, please, people. Come on, do your thing. But let me just develop. Let me come back on that point about Carty. So the counter argument I have to what you say, Santokie, is, can you show someone that you're investing in them by making sure so you select them to always come with the squad. So you're always with the squad regardless, right? So that's me saying to you, you are important to us. I'm not selecting you because I can see that your game's not where it needs to be at this moment in time, but stay in the high performance setting of being with the West Indies senior side so we can work on your game in the nets. I just don't know. So let's just see, let argument's sake. Let me see if it plays out like this, Santokie. Let's say he fails in all 3 innings in this England series, and then whoever our next ODI series is, he fails then. What would happen after that, Santokie, if he had 6 failures in a row? He would be dropped, right? What do you reckon?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, he'd be dropped. Now, if he gets dropped because he doesn't convert versus England, then doesn't convert in the next ODI series, what does that say to your investment in youth if you drop him in the next series then? So this is why I'm always skeptical when people use lines like we're investing in youth, because how long does the investment last? And if the investment doesn't last a long time, why did you say you were investing in youth in the first place? You either invest or you're not investing, right? And so in theory, even though I started the point, my argument is surely then Carty's undroppable for the next year, because that's what proper investment would be. Do you get where I'm coming from? It can't be, oh, you flopped versus England and you flopped in the next series, so the investment's over now. Do you get so that? But I think that's more about the semantics of the language that was used, and it goes back to your point about putting needless pressure on the man.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, all right, let's say Carty's the lowest scorer in that middle order for this series. Our next ODI series is against Australia in February. If Nicholas Pooran makes himself available for ODIs coming in, where does that leave Carty? Because then do you persist with Carty, but then you have to find a space for Nicholas Pooran, for instance? So at how far is Carty undroppable? And then also, hypothetically speaking, if a Pooran did come back and you drop, Carty's only 1 year younger than Pooran, so the investing with youth line as well would be blurred as well. So it's very interesting to see, because as you said, Mash, they've essentially, the semantics of it all, the rhetoric Desmond Haynes has given is we're basing our hopes on Carty being, along with Afanase, being the guys who sort of revive and push us forward to the 2027 World Cup. So you're essentially, if you're dropping the man after 6 ODIs, you're essentially going back on what you said, and then that will just lead to more question marks and scrutiny about why you've kept out someone who was in form like a Darren Bravo for a Carty, but then dropped him later down the line. So I just feel like they put needless pressure on not only themselves as selectors, but Carty more so than anything.
Yeah, 100%. And ultimately, I hope Casey comes good. Casey's a good guy.
Yeah.
He's a humble youth who really wants to do well. I hope he comes good. I hope he learns to up his strike rate. But yeah, today two things can be correct at the same time. You can both say that and at the same time say his innings today was torturous to watch. Shafane Rutherford, I think we spoke about everyone apart from Shafane Rutherford. So Santokie, Shafane Rutherford, who's been around for a very long time but is only 25 years old, he's also been included in this invest in the youth man rhetoric. Shafane faced 3 balls today, Santokie, and it went like this. First ball, 6. Second ball, sweep shot on middle stump, LBW. I think Hawkeye showed it was bouncing over the top. I thought it was plumb. Third ball, skied it to the deep mid-wicket boundary out. Now, not everyone, there are a lot of people in the Discord at the time when... So actually, this is anyone who's in the Discord, who's still in this live, tell the people in the chat if I'm lying. When Rutherford hit his 6, Santokie, I immediately put in the Discord, he's going to be out within the next 10 balls because it was just obvious. The man hit a 6 and it's like, you're going to carry on being dunce and bossy and get out immediately. 2 balls later, out. In fact, second ball out, third ball out, right? There were a few people in the Discord who then said, oh, you can't blame him because he was just playing the innings he was supposed to play. Now, my argument against this, Santokie, is you're the number 6 batter. Yes, we were chasing 3-2-6, but Romario Shepherd came in after Shafane Rutherford and at least spent a few balls trying to get in before he started to try and hit big shots and so on and so forth. So my critique for Shafane was, why did you not at least spend at least 2 balls just assessing the wicket? I refuse to accept that they said to Shafane Rutherford, go out there and try and hit every single ball for 4 or 6 from ball 1. It doesn't make sense, Santokie. Talk to me.
Yeah, I think the argument that he's a number 6, this is what he's supposed to do, makes no sense because then it means you ignore the game situation. I think we still had 126 runs to win when he came out. So you can't play the finisher role because we're nowhere near the finisher. You're like in the middle of the innings. And again, it would be like if West Indies ever found themselves in a position where they're 20 for 5, for instance, it's because Shafane Rutherford 6, does he come out and play that innings? You have to adapt to the game situation, which Hope done so well today. So I think Rutherford, I don't know why. Maybe it was pressure, his first ODI. And his first time playing for West Indies in a long time. Maybe there was just that pressure and felt the need to prove himself. But he could have just had a bit more time to compose himself, play out a few singles, get settled into the game like Romario Shepherd did. It just felt a bit reckless. He was playing as if we needed to hit 8 or 5 balls or something like that. Like it was a finishing situation. And I guess because he's played so much T20 cricket where he is the finisher, maybe his brain's just currently wired like that and he just needs to get used to getting back into the 50-over game where you have so many balls to kind of play around with. So I'm not going to cuss him out or judge him too much because it's his first ODI. We can't base it on an individual performance. I think once the series is finished, we can give an overall assessment of his sort of maiden ODI series and see, hopefully he's learned his lessons from this and he'll build on it in the second and third ODIs.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight Sol 4X's point here because Sol says Rutherford got picked because he played those same innings in Super 50 for Guyana. Anybody who watched the content that I did during Super 50 may remember, and it's in the archives, go watch it back if you want to. I said, I think it was the video, might have even been the video Santokie and I did reviewing the tournament. And I said that Rutherford will get selected for West Indies and he deserves to be selected for West Indies. But all through the tournament, I kept saying, but what happens when Shafane has to actually play a sensible innings? Like, it's one thing to be known for, right, I can play a T20 innings from any situation, but not every situation is a T20 situation, right?
Yeah.
This is international cricket. This is big boy cricket. You can't just come out and say, right, this is the same as Guyana playing West Indies Academy. I'm just going to try hit every ball for 6 and 4. Like, respect Rehan Ahmed. Like, this youngster's a top leg spinner. He's flipping Adil Rashid's heir apparent. Like, at least let the leg spinner bowl 1-2 balls so you can see what he's doing. Like, just see how it's coming out his hand just for a second. But anyways, as Santokie says, obviously we're going to give Shafane time, and obviously we hope that he learns from that. But certainly it was certainly an interesting approach. Now, Santokie, we're 1-0 up. Sorry, I'm trying to find my pen. It's behind me. We're 1-0 up. A win that possibly few expected. I think it will probably be the same side going into the second game. I think it almost has to be. I don't think you can change it. But do you think there'll be any? Do you think they're like, even if they did change it, the only change they could make would be Carty out and Chase in? But I just don't see them doing it. I think you've got to give everybody the same go again.
Yeah, I think you stick to a winning formula. I think the selectors would be mad to drop Carty after one game just because of the rhetoric before this series. So I think you stick with this side. And also, I think it'd be unfair on Carty to drop him after one game, basically. So I think they'll stick with the same side, keep the winning formula, and hope that it pays off again.
Yeah, 100%. So, people, this is the 23rd reset since the year 2000, and this reset has started with an impressive win. It must be said, we've barely spoken about England. I thought the England bowling was we had barely. I mean, that's for the English fans and the English journalists to do their podcast and their analysis. But I just want to quickly say to people that I thought Curran was poor. I thought Bryden Cast was subpar. Rehan Ahmed was as skillful as we know him to be. I thought Gus Atkinson, the Surrey seamer, bowled with a lot of heart actually, and probably could have got more wickets. But I thought Curran and Cast looked absolutely subpar. And some of their bowling was village bowling. That's not to take anything away from West Indies, but it's just to also point out that I thought England's bowling in the back end was dreadful. If I'm honest,
we talk about pressure in the game. I think there's a lot of pressure on Joss Buttler, the England captain. I think if they lose the series to West Indies, he probably lose the captaincy, to be fair, on the back of that World Cup. Because bear in mind, this is also a reset for England as well. So you can't start off a reset by losing the series to a side that even make the World Cup. So I think there's massive, massive pressure. More pressure on England to win the next ODI than West Indies, and that could play into our hands.
Listen, when I did that podcast with Steve Harmison last week, Harmison said it was important for England to win the series 3-0 to really set down a marker about the Champions Trophy. So I need to send him a message and say, bro, ain't going to be 3-0, cuz.
Listen, man said 3-0 in the Caribbean, you know.
So when this live is done, let me send him a quick message and say, if you're lucky, you might get a 2-1, if you're lucky. But listen, people, thank you as ever for joining us on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'm looking at we've got a total of 1.5k viewers at this moment in time. But in terms of on the live, do you know what, Santokie? We should stay on this. We should stay on. It says 491 people are currently in the live. I'm almost tempted to just stay on for 10 seconds to see if we can touch 500.
Would you change any of the batting positions going to? So would you put Carty down? Would you keep him at 3?
Do you know what? That's actually, as much as I wanted to turn this off, that's actually a really good question, because it's again something that I referred to in last night's show. I don't know, Santokie, where Carty's best position is. Carty almost has to be a floating batter, but is he good enough to be a floating batter? And what I mean by that is, if we lost wickets in a quick clump, so say we were 110 for 3, then you probably want Carty to come in and play a test match innings. But if you're, as we were today, when he came in, I think we were 104 for 1, going at 6.6 and over. And at that point, you wanted someone to maintain the kind of rate that Athanaze and King had set, and we sent Carty in. So I just wonder, are we saying Carty or 3 no matter what? Or is there an error in judgment here? But here's the problem, Santokie. Even if you moved Hetmeyer up to 3 and put Carty at 5, you're still facing the same problem in theory. So this is where Carty's strike rate is an issue. because it's hard to know where to put Carty, because technically with his strike rate and where his game is at this point in time, there's only certain situations he can come in. But then the flip side to that argument is, if you don't put him at number 3 and basically tell him this is your position, his game can't change. Do you know what I mean? It's like 50-50, Santokie. You almost have to force him to change his game by telling him, we are investing in you. You are the number 3.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I think you have to invest in him and keep him at that 3 position. Also, Mash, we forgot to mention, obviously, there were talk about with Shane Dowitch's sudden retirement, what would happen with the wicket-keeping position. I think you tweeted out that Leonardo Julian, who played for the West Indies Academy in the Super 50, and he played in the 50-over games against the emerging Island side recently. He was around the squad. So, hopefully not, but I hope it had to miss one of the next 2 ODIs. We could see Julian out of nowhere as wicketkeeper for the West Indies side.
So again, it's worth me saying that I've been told a big rumor about someone was called to be the replacement for Shane Dowrich, and it weren't Leonardo Julian, and some big passer happened around it. I'm still waiting for the proper details to come round to me about that, but Leonardo Julian has ended up coming into the West Indies senior team.
Dennis Ramden was getting a recall, yeah?
I don't know who it was, but I know there was a passer, and the story is being kept quiet for now. But put it this way, it weren't supposed to be Leonardo Julian. I know that much for certain. So anyways, we shall see. But anyways, people, we tried to wait to see if we get 500 in the live, and all that happened instead is people disappeared. We get the message. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us on the live, people, the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. We're 1-0 up, people. Rally around the West Indies. Rally around the West Indies. Join us soon for another episode of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe on your way out, people, and we'll be back with some more content very, very soon.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rule seems coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.